Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. So this is part 3 of my reporting on the Trump tax story in the New York Times that came out this weekend, this bombshell that they dropped. And honestly, I think that this is the most important part next to the fact that he just doesn't pay his fair share of taxes and how that affects us as Americans, how that harms our country in so many ways based on what policies and programs are available to us as Americans, what things are allowed and not allowed, and our national debt. But in addition to that, I think his conflicts of interest are of monumental importance because they have the potential, again, to affect all of us. They have the potential to change the way our country is governed. It has the potential to change our policies with foreign countries, to maybe give them perks and benefits or a pass on things, kind of like Trump did with Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia after he kidnapped and murdered and chopped up an American resident, an American journalist, and lied about it, which we now know because of Bob Woodward's tapes that Trump made that whole thing go away and protected him. Here's the deal. Trump has a ton of conflicts of interest that involve his businesses, which we all knew was going to happen. We all knew this is why he needed to truly divest from his businesses when he took office. The fact that that is not a law and a requirement is absolutely outrageous. It is unbelievable that we would allow people to take office in this country, any office, but especially the highest office in our country, without divesting and really peeling themselves apart from their business interests so that it doesn't affect their day-to-day decisions. So here's the deal. Again, I'm going to go through some bullet points that they brought up. So between 2017 and 2018, Trump's foreign income totaled $73 million. That's money that he's getting from foreign countries. And foreign income included money from licensing deals, including $3 million from the Philippines, $2.3 million from India, and $1 million from Turkey. So his tax returns reveal exactly how much money he's taken as a result of government corruption, as I said, and that this money is a direct conflict of interest in regard to the best interests of the U.S. and you and I, we the people. So example number 1 is Mar-a-Lago memberships. They increased substantially in 2015 after Trump announced that he was running for office. In fact, Trump made an additional $5 million since then, as compared to other periods of time. So people are obviously clearly trying to gain access to him. We know that many foreign dignitaries and foreign government officials stay there as a way to curry favor with him. It's like so blatant. It's just corruption in our faces, and nobody's doing anything about it. In 2017, they also pointed out that Billy Graham, who's the famous evangelical leader, his evangelical group held at least one event at Trump's DC hotel in which they laid out almost $400,000. I mean, yeah, and then they expect to be paid back. That's why we have Trump nominating who we do. That's why Republicans are so willing to just plow down the Democrats, are willing to look like complete liars and hypocrites and go against this so-called rule that Mitch McConnell pulled out of his ass and made up when Obama was trying to nominate Merrick Garland. This is why, because they get money from these people in one way or another. If they don't slip them an envelope with a bunch of cash in it, Another example they provided was that Turkish businesses have held conferences at Trump's DC hotel and at his Virginia golf club, some of which were actually attended by Turkish government officials. Again, trying to curry favor. Gee, I wonder why Trump is always so kind and compassionate and talks up Turkey. But they also, which seems pretty obvious too, why it's happening is they've canceled events at his hotel at periods of time when relations have broken down. And here's one thing that's really just disturbing. A Turkish trade group has been lobbying the Trump administration, and what they're lobbying them for is they're essentially trying to lure U.S. supply chains away from China and take over that business. So they want the U.S. to start doing business with Turkey instead of China. The effort is being led by a man named Mehmet Ali Yalçındag, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. So Yalçındag has written cabinet secretaries in the Trump administration 3 separate times in this effort. When he sent the letters, he noted in the letters that he had copied Donald Trump in each of them. Now, why is this important? Well, it's because Yalçındag is also the Turkish businessman who helped Trump to secure a licensing deal in Turkey to build 2 Trump towers. And Trump and his family has earned a minimum of $13 million off of that licensing deal in Turkey. So what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Remember, this is a licensing deal. This is not, Trump doesn't own those buildings. It's not Trump's property. It's a licensing deal, meaning they're using his name. There is nothing that Trump cherishes more than having his name in gold letters on the front of a building. And he's being paid for it. So, I mean, it's really important to him, especially if you listen to the first part of this 3-part reporting about how much trouble Trump is in, financially speaking, and how much he needs this money that's coming in from these licensing deals. I mean, he is up a creek. So is he going to go against Turkey? Is he going to put his foot down if they do something wrong? I mean, you've got Erdogan, who's a scumbag. The guy is a dictator, and Trump just praises him and falls all over him. Of course, he's not going to say anything negative about him. Of course, he's not going to take action if Erdogan is doing anything illegal or inappropriate or immoral. He stands to lose that licensing deal. So a similar conflict of interest exists in the Philippines as well. And as we all know, Trump has fallen all over himself. He thinks that it's just great that Duterte goes out and has his goons and his thugs commit extrajudicial killings. I mean, Trump is trying to emulate that here in the United States now. We saw that with the guy that they killed in Portland. And here's the deal. So Duterte appointed the businessman who was involved in the licensing and Trump Tower deal in the Philippines to be the special trade envoy to Washington. So if you work with Trump, you set up these business deals with him, you're going to get these sweetheart deals in the government in your home country. So it's to your benefit. And then you have a guy who, again, is in need. He's desperate for money right now, by all accounts, by everything in this New York Times report. He is beyond desperate. The tab is coming due. The clock is ticking. He doesn't want to lose these licensing deals. So of course, he's not going to say anything negative about Duterte. And in Argentina, another similar conflict of interest exists. So the person who helped to set up Trump's licensing deal in that country was also appointed to a cabinet position. Oh my God. I mean, if one of these countries wanted to do something that was in direct conflict with what is best for our country, Trump is not going to stop them. I don't care how much he repeats America first. It's Trump first. It's Trump's pocketbook and Trump's bank account first. If you think for 1 second that this piece of shit who has screwed over every business person he's ever done business with, every company that has ever done work for him, every wife he's ever had, every business partner he's ever had, all of his attorneys, all of his cabinet members, if you think that he's going to be faithful to you because you're an American citizen, I got a wall to sell you, and I promise that it's not going to cost you anything because Mexico is going to pay for it. Okay, so the report goes on to talk about how credit card transactions at some of Trump's properties have risen tremendously since he took office, and banks and other corporate entities have propped up his failing Doral Golf Resort since he took office. So a couple examples that they gave is that Bank of America, over the course of 2 years, 2015, 2016, spent $7 million at Trump's resort. Another example they gave was that a food retailer and wholesaler trade association paid $1.2 million to Doral in 2017 and 2018. And in 2018, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce spent over $400,000 there, $406,599. I mean, do you think that Trump is going to take adverse action against any of these people? Do you think that if Bank America comes under fire and they're being sued or they're being looked at for any number of crimes like they committed back in the Great Recession, that Trump would take action against them, that he would sick William Barr on them in the Justice Department? Hell no. They will get away with murder because they are literally putting money in his pocket. And then on top of that, on top of people paying one-offs to stay at his properties and curry favor with him in that way, there are companies that have already been paying him even before he became president, who rent, or lease space from him in his building. So for example, Walgreens pays Trump $3.4 million per year to lease one of his Manhattan buildings. $3.4 million a year. Here's the deal. And this is exactly how things go down. And this is exactly why we can't have these conflicts of interest. Walgreens was being looked at and under suspicion for antitrust issues. Well, what do you know? It all went away and they were able to resolve it with the federal government in 2017. Coincidence? Could be, but I doubt it. Another company, perfect example, a company called Attain Engineers pays Trump $2.5 million a year to lease space at one of his properties. Now, why is this important? Attain was the subject of a corruption scandal recently, and it led to two of their top executives pleading guilty to bribery charges for paying the city to give them government contracts, right? So pay to play. Attain was then placed on a list that would have required them to obtain waivers in the future if they wished to bid on and obtain state contracts for work. Well, in 2018, Attain just changed its name. They simply changed their name, and then they were allowed to register again as an eligible federal contractor. And they have no restrictions or waiver requirements. So the same company that was bribing cities to give them government contracts is just allowed to change their name and, oh yeah, you're good to go. Yeah, we'll consider you for contracts. Now, again, is that a coincidence that they put $2.5 million a year into Trump's pocket? I don't know. But that's the problem. We don't know. We should be able to know. We should be able to say, no, our president doesn't have any conflicts of interest. There's no reason that he would give these companies preferential treatment, because what is the purpose? What's he getting out of it? We need to know that our president is not compromised by anyone, whether it be a foreign country or one of our own companies or a person, any entity. Our president should not be compromised by anyone. There should be no dual loyalty. Here's another one that they brought up. There's a company called Vornado, which Trump owns a portion of the company. He's in partnership with this person. This Vornado partnership owns 2 office towers, one in Manhattan, New York, and then the other in San Francisco, California. But please tell me about, coastal elites. But again, I digress. So Vornado's chief executive officer is Stephen Roth. Well, Trump appointed Roth to the White House Economic Recovery Council. Would he have gotten that job if he was not in business with Trump? I don't know. Again, we don't know. Trump also appointed Roth's wife to the Kennedy Center Board of Trustees. Would she have gotten that position if her husband wasn't in business with Trump? I don't know. Now, there are tenants in those buildings who pay multi-million-dollar leases per year. And many of these companies are companies that could be and should be regulated by the federal government. Again, huge conflict of interest. So for example, in 2018, they received $5.8 million from Goldman Sachs. Yes, the same Goldman Sachs who was responsible in large part for the 2008 financial crisis, for which they paid no price, nobody went to prison. And yeah, that was Obama. That was on Obama. But now Trump is taking in almost $6 million a year from them. Do you think that if they decide to play fast and loose again, or if they already are, and our economy is already in the tank, but if they decided to screw people over again on a level like that magnitude, that Trump would take action? Probably not. Probably not. $3.1 million is paid to Trump and his partner from Microsoft every year. And then this is the really big one. An investment company called Neuberger Berman pays Trump and his partner $32.7 million a year to rent space from them in one of those properties. I mean, if you're broke, put yourself in Trump's position. If you're broke and you're desperate for money, and you got money coming in from foreign dictators and corporations, and your ass is on the line, you are about 4 years away from having the hammer drop. All these loans that I talked about in part 1, all of these loans that are coming due, 400 and something, I believe it's $412 million in debt that Trump is in. He has barely any cash on hand, hardly any liquid assets. You're broke. You need money. Your businesses are bleeding cash daily, and you're having to scramble. You've sold all your stock. You've depleted all of your other assets. You've taken out every loan you possibly can. Your tax returns show no money coming in. You're showing losses up the ass. So your chances of getting any lender to give you more money to keep covering the losses is unlikely. I mean, who would loan to someone who just keeps losing and losing and losing? What are you going to do? But your only lifeline Your only lifeline is the money that you have coming in from these licensing deals with foreign countries and rental income from corporations. What are you going to do if something goes sideways with one of them? Are you going to stand up to them? Are you going to take action against them? Are you going to hold them accountable for illegal actions? Hell no. Not someone like Trump. Maybe someone with ethics and morals would, because they would say, I literally have to put my country above my own needs and my own desires and my own financial issues. But that's not Trump. That is not who he has ever been. That is not who he ever will be. Go read Michael Cohen's book. Go read how he screwed over his, quote, good friends and basically stole their property from them and stole their son's inheritance. That's who Trump is. He doesn't care who gets in his way. He's going to mow them down. And unfortunately, if there is a conflict, if there is ever a time when Trump has to choose between these people who are putting money in his pocket and keeping his head above water, or you and I, the American people and our country, guess who he's going to choose? And that is the problem. So, as always, guys, like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.